This topic is use of construction documents on job site. The objectives of these topics are, first of all, this chapter will introduce the construction documents and their use in the construction projects. So it has these main objectives: purpose and intent of the construction documents, common elements of construction documents, project manual, including a discussion of its components, organization, and contents, construction drawings, including a discussion of their organization and content, typical uses of the construction documents at the job site, including familiarization of construction professionals with the project, preparing crew assignments, and problem solving. Introduction. In most construction projects, the contractor does not develop the design of the project. The design is envisioned by the architect or engineer and is then transmitted to the contractor through drawings and written specifications. So these construction documents describe the nature of the project, the materials desired, the level of quality of work desired, and what is the connection of the materials and the installation and systems necessary to achieve the project. So the construction documents are not for those people who cannot understand. So in experience and special training is needed to understand those construction documents. So the terminology used in the construction documents is a special language that is that accurately describes the construction components. So the codes and regulations. So although the codes and regulations are not formally included as a construction documents, they are the governing regulations for compliance of design and construction. So codes are normally referenced in the construction documents, but the contractor is obligated to comply to codes and regulations if they are not specified or referenced. So in addition, the contractor must comply to the drawings and specifications as well. Of course, compliance to the drawings and specifications is necessary, but the issue of the codes and regulations is a little bit different in that even if they are not specified in the construction documents, the contractor must be familiar with those codes and regulations, and these codes and regulations must be complied. So after this brief introduction to the construction documents, so let's see what are these construction documents. So generally speaking, construction documents can be classified into two major physical components. So one of them is the project manual, and the other is others are the drawings itself. So there are various formats for both components, which depend on the construction type and the local customs. So the primary purpose of these two physical components is that to communicate the intended elements, systems, and relationships to the contractor. Okay, so let's look at some of the documents in the project manual and drawings one by one. So first such document is the advertisement or invitation to bid, which is a component of the project manual. So the information, this type of section of the project manual includes the project name, if there is any project number, where the project is located, and the brief description of the project. So what is the owner's name and the address? What is the architect or engineer's name, address, and the contact of the individual which can be contacted, and what was the bid date and time, and if there is any bid security that was required, whether there is any restrictions on the bidders, anticipated price range of the project, or anticipated project duration. So this type of document is needed, as the name shows that it is for bidding on the project. The next document is the request for proposal. So normally this type of document, request for proposal, is requested by the owner, and in this type of request for proposal is similar to the invitation to bid, but normally the request for proposal is used in the design, build, and some construction management projects. So this proposal is more extensive than the traditional bid, detailing the firm's experience and qualifications and approach to the projects. So the requests for the proposals are evaluated by the owner and usually shortlisted down to a few firms. Then the next item is the instructions to bidders. So this, of course, as the name shows, that these are some of the instructions for those prospective bidders who want to apply for the project. So this type of instruction are normally standard. So for example, some standard forms are used for the provision of these kinds of instructions. So that means most of these procedures are standard, and some specific information which is concerning to the requests for the submissions, clarifications, bidder, pre-qualifications, bid proposals, and bid periods should be, it can be included in those instructions. Next is the bid form. So bid forms include information relevant to qualification as a responsive bidder, such as receipt of addenda, bid price, alternate pricing, proposed completion of construction, subcontractor information, and certifications of compliance to regulations. And then there are very important things which are included in the project manual. These are called the general conditions of the contract, and then later on there will be the special conditions of the contract, or supplementary conditions of the contract. So the general conditions of the contract relate to a construction project as rules would relate to a football game. So these conditions establish the relationships between the owner, its agents, for example, architects and engineers, and the contractor, and define the relationships and responsibilities of the parties to maintain this relationship. So the conditions also establish the terms of the legal contract between the owner and the contractor. The supplementary conditions of the contract are additional provisions, okay, or modifications to the general conditions of the contract that are specific to the particular owner and project. So together these form the conditions of the contract. So for example, in the conditions of the contract, you have the general conditions of the contract and the supplementary conditions of the contract. So all actions of the owner and the contractor can be judged for compliance to the conditions of the contract. So the use of some standard form of general conditions and the contract is common in the construction industry. So some of the information which cannot be included as like conditions of the contract, that can be included as the additional information to bidders. So many project manuals will include information to bidders that is not considered as a contract document. The most common piece of such information to bidders is the geotechnical or soil report. Because this report is prepared for use by the architect and the engineer in determining the design of the foundations and not specifically for the contractor's use, the soils report is normally furnished only as information without designation as a contract document. Okay, so after this we can talk about the construction specifications, which are normally to be specific, we can call them as the technical specifications. So for the technical specifications, actually there is a MasterFormat by the Construction Specification Institute. So this is a quite globalized document which is used in many countries. It is divided into 49 divisions. Okay, and this MasterFormat is commonly used for most building construction specifications in USA and of course in other countries as well. So it has earlier it used to have 16 divisions, but now the current version has 49 divisions, and these divisions comprise from division 1, division 2, starting from the general requirements, existing conditions, concrete, masonry, etc. Okay, so for example, this is the division 1 is about the general requirements. These requirements specify the project related overhead items for the particular projects. Whereas from division 2 to 48 are the technical specifications. These divisions describe the products, equipment, and systems. So they start from the general products, and each of these divisions will have more than one part, such as part 1 will be general, part 2 will be the product, part 3 will be the execution. And then you have the items which are called as the addenda, additional items. But before I describe addenda, let's talk a little bit more about the general requirements. So the general requirements specifies project related overhead items for the particular project. That means those items which are not specific to some certain aspect of the project, those items which may be related to the project as a whole. So majority of these items are general items in that they relate to all phases of the work rather than an individual activity or a subcontract. As I just described before, each of the divisions which are from 2 to 48 are called as the technical specifications. Okay, in those technical specifications are categorized under part 1, part 2, part 3, journal, products, or execution. So under the journal category, they contain several essential items that can help determine the scope of the product required. So for example, related work elsewhere, and the description of the work, quality assurance, submittals, etc. So part 2 relates with the products. So this section details the products intended for the project. Okay, we will continue this lecture in the next video clip.